and it was absolutely beautiful every day we were there.
Yeah, I know. I'm going that time frame next summer, so.
It was 75 and sunny every day.
Yeah, it's nice.
Were the northern lights out yet?
No,
Uh,
not down.
We're
in
being
South
recorded, guys.
yeah,
It says the recording is live.
And Chair
Yeah.
Pryor, we're ready when you are.
all right. Enough of all the top secret discussion about the northern lights. I'm showing 0900, and that means it's time for the Board of Retirement meeting. And that brings us to call of the order. Is my mic volume okay, Bonnie?
Yes, you sound nice and clear.
Okay, thanks. It's a new microphone. All right, so that brings us to call of the order.
Thank you, Chair Pryor. So this meeting is being held virtually, so I will do a roll call of the trustees to confirm attendance. Mr. Knox?
Good morning, I'm here.
Ms. Gray?
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Santos?
Good morning.
Mr. Sanchez?
Hi, present. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Moore?
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Keogh?
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Robbins?
I'm present.
Mr. Harris?
Good morning.
Ms. Zapanta? Mr. Bernstein? Mr. Bernstein? I do see you present. If you can just let me know once you're very good. I see you. Unmute, Mr. Bernstein? Okay, so we just can't hear you, Mr. Bernstein, but I will mark you here. Staff participating in the meeting includes CEO Santos Kryman, Deputy CEO Louis Lugo, Assistant Executive Officers JJ Popovich and Laura Guglielmo, CIO John Grable, Chief Counsel Stephen Rice, Senior Staff Counsel Frank Boyd, Legislative Affairs Officer Barry Liu. Staff and managers participating in today's meeting include Vincent Lim, Carly Natoya, Kathy Delino, Celso Templo, Ted Granger, Sami Wong, Barry Liu, Cassandra Smith, Ricky Contreras, Tamara Caldwell, Vicky Neely, Carrie Wilson, Hernan Barrientos, and Ricardo Salinas. LACERA's medical advisor, Dr. Glenn Arisman, will also be participating. Consultants include Robert Lowe, Barbara O'Hara, Robert Schmicke, Robert Lowe, Sean Krotz from Alliant, and Nick Collier and Craig Glide from Milliman. Trustees, please use the Zoom chat option to be placed in the queue. At this time, we ask all meeting participants to mute their mics until you are ready to speak. And we may proceed with the agenda.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. And as a reminder, please, if you're on the board, please try and keep your video active and your and muted, your voice muted. And we'll get started. I am on duty today. If I get anything major, I'll turn it over to Sean. I'm going to be screening my calls here, and if I got to run out, Sean is aware. I did talk to him earlier, and he'll be taking over the meeting. So that brings us to approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of August 3rd of 2022. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
Motion by Harris, second by, was that you, Vivian?
Ms. Gray.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Mr. Knox?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Santos?
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Keogh?
Aye.
Mr. Robbins?
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein?
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you. I have received no request for public comment,
That is correct.
and that brings us to our executive updates, item 4, and that brings us to JJ and LACERA All-Stars.
Well, thank you very much, Chair Pryor. Good morning, trustees. This is the time of the meeting when we recognize our all-stars, those that have gone above and beyond the call of duty, helping each other and our members. So if you are there, I'm going to virtually wave to you and put my thumbs up. Here they are: Gabriel Trefoya, Eduardo Asensio, Indy Brook, Perla Gonzalez. Our rideshare winner is Korea Wong, and our web watcher is Wendy Dorado. So thank you very much for everything that you've done. We appreciate you.
Thank you, as does the Board of Retirement. Next, we have the Chief Executive Officer's report. Mr. Kryman.
Yes, thank you, Chair Pryor, trustees. Good morning, everyone. Very brief full report from the Chief Executive Officer. The strategic planning update, we have received all of the results of the surveys, the member surveys, as well as the staff surveys. And so we're in the process of evaluating all of the information. We're looking forward to using that information to help us with our strategic planning efforts moving forward. The one thing that I did want to note is that nearly 50% of our members did submit a mail, filled out a survey and mailed it into the office. And so we'll be discussing that with the executive office in terms of the elections for our retired members moving forward. I think it's good information for them to have, and a strong case for mail-in ballots for future LACERA elections. We also completed our staffing survey. So we're also in the process of evaluating that. We had about a 50% response rate for that particular survey. So our staff are evaluating all of the information as we speak. We did have a meeting with the board chairs about returning to the boardroom. We're going to continue having board meetings in a virtual format the way we have been until further notice. And we anticipate, we plan on having a meeting with the board chairs in November to discuss a timeline for returning back into the office. In terms of the communication plan, we're in the process of evaluating both of those plans, and we wanted to wait to put both two plans together, the external plan that EK has prepared, and then the internal plan that our communications division has gone through. And so once we have that, we're going to overlay it with the strategic planning efforts to make sure that we harmonize that, and we'll plan on presenting it to the board very, very soon. I did want to mention that the safety member election was completed August 31st, I believe was the last day for voting. We've been informed by the executive office that the candidates as well as the LACERA will be informed of the unofficial results of that particular election by the end of this week. So I do have them on my speed dial. We're calling them on every day to see if they've come up with the results. And so they're working with their vendor. I'm sure that they're double checking and triple checking everything before they provide us with any unofficial results. So as soon as I get that information, I'll be more than happy to share that with all of the trustees. That is my report. I'm be more than happy to stand for questions if there are any.
I do have a question for Mr. Bernstein.
Santosh, can you just update us on return to work for employees?
Well, we opened back up the member services section on the 29th of August. And so our staff are still working in a hybrid work model. So we have about between 25 to 30% of our staff that are coming into the office on any given day. So we anticipate moving forward and continuing the hybrid work model moving forward. So we are in the office. We are accepting our members in person by appointment only. And so that is the status of return to work for our staff.
I see no more requests for to speak or to ask questions. Thank you, Mr. Kryman. That brings us to item 5, which are the disability retirements on the consent calendar. I'll give you everybody a minute to get to that. First item is page 1 to page 2, excuse me. 779 to 779D to 795D. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion
I'll
by
second.
Mr. Kehoe, second by Mr. Harris.
Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Ms. Gray. Thumbs up. Mr. Santos,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you, Bonnie. Next is page 3, 1515 Bravo through 1519 Bravo. Fire and lifeguard. Go ahead.
Can I have a motion?
Move approval.
Oh, sorry.
I'll second.
Second.
Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Santos,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein,
Aye.
Mr. Pryor, Chair
Aye.
Pryor. The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you. We're still on the consent calendar. We're going to page 4 and 5, 2424C through 2435C. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
I have a
Second.
motion from Mr. Santos, second by Mr. Robbins.
Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Santos,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you, Bonnie. I did receive a request yesterday to pull one consent item, and that's consent item A, which is the recommendation that we remain with online meetings. So the motion, appropriate motion would be for consent items B, C, and D. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Pryor, if it was my request to pull it, I simply said I was considering pull it. I'm not prepared to pull it at this time. So if it's someone else, pull it, but please don't pull it for me.
Oh, okay, I was pulling it for you. Anybody else want to pull item A? I'll throw it out there. If nobody's pulling item A, then we'll go ahead with the complete consent calendar, which is A, B, C, and D. And I need a motion.
Move it.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Gray, second by Mr. Robbins.
Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Santos,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you. On to the non-consent calendar. And first is non-consent item A. That is a recommendation is submitted by Mr. Granger that the Board of Retirement make its cost of the ad hoc Star Cola program permanent at an 80% benefit level, and that we decide on whether that is going to be a temporary or permanent funding. So we'll go ahead with the presentations, and then motions are appropriate following the presentations. So let's hold off for now. Let's hold off during the presentations, making a motion. We'll do that during our discussion following the PowerPoint and presentation. So without further ado, who am I turning this over to? Mr. Granger?
Granger.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Pryor. Good morning, Chair Pryor and Board of Retirement Trustees. Thank you very much. I do have some prepared comments, and as well, I will walk through the slide deck that was provided. With me today on this meeting is Nick Collier and Craig Glide from Milliman, LACERA's Consulting Actuaries. And also I want to thank Gloria Rios from my team for driving the slides. I'd like to start off really quick and just clarify the recommendation. We do want to make public today the cost of the 2023 Star Cola Award for the program, the upcoming program year. Those costs are as follows. It will be $231,000 for the ad hoc award, and it will be 2.467 million for a permanent award. In terms of the recommendation, the second part today is that we would like the board to direct staff to bring back this item to the board's retirement's October meeting. At that time, the board will decide whether or not to make the Star COLA award for 2023. And if awarded, whether the benefits will be on an ad hoc or a permanent basis. So I just wanted to clarify the recommendation. A couple of quick highlights before I jump into the slides. For the 2023 Star COLA program, we do have members in general plans B, C, and D, and safety B, who retired on or before March 31, 1991, who are eligible for the Star COLA award. Most eligible members would receive 3.1%. Members who retired from April 1, 1990 to March 31, 1991 would receive 0.5% as one group of members. The Star COLA award is contingent, of course, upon the COLA bank balance. The 2023 Star COLA program would become effective January 1, 2023, and included in the retirement benefit payments for January 31st. And with that, I will start going through the slides. Gloria, if you could advance to the slide agenda, please. Okay, so we're going to cover three important topics, and really, this is not meant to walk through all of the information in the entire memo. We just wanted to point out sort of three key areas and explain, provide some additional clarification or information regarding these key concepts. So Gloria, if you could advance. The Star COLA award method, one more. We basically put together a slide to kind of compare the two methods. With respect to an ad hoc Star COLA, it's a temporary benefit for the current calendar year. It's not included in the calculation of future statutory April 1st COLA awards. The COLA accumulation account is not reduced. It remains above the 20% level, and future increases and decreases will be taken out of that amount. The Board of Retirement must approve an ad hoc benefit each year in future years, and these benefits are paid from the Star COLA reserve. On the permanent side, the benefit would become permanent for the current calendar year and future years. And just to clarify, I meant 2023 when I said current calendar year. The Star benefit does increase when it's awarded on a permanent basis. It does increase the base allowance, and it's included in the calculation of future statutory April 1st COLA awards. The COLA accumulation account balance is reduced to the 20% level. The Board of Retirement does not have to approve these benefits each year in future years if you choose to make it permanent. And finally, from the accounting perspective, there's a one-time transfer from the Star Reserve to the Employer Reserve. So Gloria, if you could advance. One more, okay. Okay, so we tried to break it down as simple as we could and provide this example. In step one, we're taking a look at a general plan D member who retired in March of 1990. Step two, the current COLA accumulation account balance in this example was 18.5% as of April 2021. We did have a CPI of 6.6 in this example, and also noting that the statutory COLA award was 2.0 for Plan D members. And so that's in step three. Gloria, if you could, step four. Okay, so preliminarily, we would have a COLA accumulation account increase of 4.6%. That's the difference of the statutory COLA of 2.0 and the CPI of 6.6. And then moving on to step five, we would see that the COLA accumulation account balance would increase from 18.5 to 23.1. That would be as of April 2022. Then in August, we take a look at the accumulation accounts. We see that there is some balances that are greater than the 20%, which means that the member's benefit has lost more than 20% of its original value. Gloria, if you could advance. And then moving on to step seven, we see the accumulation account balance at 23.1%. That means that the Star COLA award, there's eligibility for the Star COLA award for the upcoming 2023 calendar year. We are here at step eight right now, trying to determine whether the board will approve the Star Cola award. The increase in benefit would be 3.1% effective January 1, 2023, as I mentioned earlier. The ad hoc would be paid for the 1 year, 2023. The permanent would be paid to members for a lifetime. And finally, the last step, the accumulation account balance would remain at 23.1 for an ad hoc award, and it would be reduced to 20.0% for award. Okay, Gloria, if you could advance. So we did include some information on the history of the STAR program funding. In 1994, the county issued pension obligation bonds. As a result, LACERA's funded ratio increased to above 100% in some subsequent years. In 1994 through 1998, the retirement benefit funding policy adopted by the Board of Investments called for a split in the excess earnings between the employer reserve and the STAR reserve. So the STAR reserve did receive some additional funding through that benefit funding policy and that agreement with the county. The highest balance in the STAR reserve, over on the right-hand side of the slide, was about 1.023 billion in 1999. And since then, we've paid STAR benefits over the years, 1990 through 2008. And so that balance has been reduced. The current balance is about 614 million, which is what we have available today to pay STAR Cola benefits. And finally, as I mentioned, the cost is included in the slide. Gloria, if you could advance, please. Okay, so the STAR Reserve, I just wanted to cover a couple of quick points on that. The STAR Cola program costs are paid from the STAR Reserve. If the board decides to make a permanent award, the amount is transferred from the STAR Reserve to the employer reserves. If it's an ad hoc award, benefits will be paid from the STAR Reserve. So that's essentially from the accounting perspective. From a valuation perspective, as far as the STAR Reserve balance of 614 million is included in valuation assets by the actuary. The STAR Cola benefits are not included in liabilities, and that's per the board's retirement benefit funding policy. So if a STAR Cola award is made, of course, this reduces valuation assets, meaning that the benefits are being paid, the STAR Cola benefits are being paid out of assets. It does increase the valuation liabilities because now we have a new liability in our valuation. As a result, it does increase the employer contribution rate by 0.01%. Gloria, if you could advance. So I think that's it in terms of the prepared comments. I'm prepared to answer questions, and also the actuary is available to answer questions.
I have a question. How many employees does this affect? Is this all employees who are retired, or in the various plans, are there different numbers?
Right. So, Mr. Moore, Trustee Moore, thank you for the question. So, as we included in the attachment to our memo, it includes a subset of the retired members. It's about 418 members. That's really the impact. It's only where members' COLA accumulation accounts have exceeded the 20% level. So if you're taking a look at the actual retirees, the grouping, it is retirees that retired from, let's see, March 1990. I'm sorry, from 1977, April 1977 to March 1991. So it's a group of retirees that have retired some time back, but again, it's based on their COLA accumulation account balance.
Hey, quick question. I've always wondered if during the year, if that, so tonight where the highest we're going is 1991. If economic conditions change to the point where 92 or 93 might be absorbed into that depreciation, does that automatically happen, or do we have to revisit the program to be able to bring those years in?
Yes, thank you for the question, Trustee Pryor. The short answer is yes. The board would have to approve any additional star COLAs. So two things are happening in that scenario. Number one, we need to decide whether this current 2023 program is ad hoc or permanent. And then next year, as in every year, I will reach out to Milliman and I will bring back the Star COLA memo to the board, and we will see if any additional retirees can be included if their COLA accumulation accounts have exceeded that balance. So each year the board takes a look at the Star COLA program and makes that determination. And again,
I'm sorry, that happens in the permanent scenario and the annual scenario.
yes, that is
Either way.
correct.
Okay.
Either way, that is correct. The COLA is annual and the Star COLA is an annual assessment. That is correct.
Okay. Mr. Robbins, I see you have a hand up.
Yes, I do. Thanks, Barry. This is it's an interesting report. You and I talked about this a couple of months ago, and I have some questions about it. And you asked me to wait until this agenda item came up, and having been on the board as long as I have, we've talked about the Star COLA over the last couple decades on many occasions, and hadn't really had an opportunity or a need to dip down into these numbers and into this pot and do much with it. The difference between the ad hoc and the permanent is that the ad hoc just calculates one time, and if we do it on a permanent basis, then that permanently increases the base pensionable amount of their pension going forward. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
I'm thinking that based upon Mr. Moore's comment, because I was going to ask the same question, and I'm trying to figure out a way to dumb this down for retirees and write about it without creating havoc at the call center, and I don't want to do that. But I'm assuming that the majority of the people that will be impacted by this are the old Plan A safety and general people. Would that be correct?
So this impacts general members in general plans B, C, D, and safety B. That is, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that is per our COLA accumulation account balance.
So the Plan A people aren't yet impacted by this
Correct.
because the COLA is bigger than 2%. Okay, I get it.
They've had 20 years of 3%.
Yeah, I know. We are very, very fortunate. So, yeah. Okay, I think I'm okay for the time being.
Great. And we have, I have JP. I'm sorry. Before that, I have Keith, Mr. Knox. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kudos, Mr. Granger. I really appreciated the memo and your presentation just now. You answered several of my questions. Every time I hear you describe this, I understand it a little better, so I appreciate that. So just so I'm clear, have we, as a board, approved the ad hoc version in the past? And if so, what was the frequency?
Yes, Mr. Trustee Knox. There were, I'm going from recollection, there were a couple of years, I want to say 2006, 2007, and 2008, where the board had approved an ad hoc a couple of years in a row, if you will, and then the board decided to make that award permanent. It's almost as if the board said, okay, we did this a couple of years, let's just go ahead and make it permanent.
And I believe we did several years all at once. I can't remember what year that was in though.
Yeah, I want to say that was around the 2008, 2009 time period.
Sounds right.
Okay, and then I guess would it be appropriate to ask, do you recall, or any other trustees on the board at the time recall, what tipped it towards the ad hoc in those individual years before they went back and made it permanent, or just approved the permanent version? Was it to avoid impacting the contribution, that was 0.1%? I'm just trying to think of what were the maybe economic factors or otherwise that did the ad hoc version.
Yeah, I don't have that history, Trustee Knox. I apologize.
No, that's fine. I appreciate it. Okay, that was it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Mr.
Keith,
Harris.
I was here, but I don't remember either, but I was on the board, but I just don't recall. I remember it was a pretty robust discussion.
I believe funding was a big part of it. We had excess and it was going quick, so we decided to utilize it before it went away. Mr. Harris.
Oh, two things. I just want to make sure I'm clear. So the ad hoc is paid for 1 year, and then after that, it goes away, correct?
That is correct, Trustee
Okay.
Harris.
Right.
Unless revoted by the board.
Correct. Yeah, I understand that. Okay. And the main question I have is, so what does 0.01% mean in dollars for the county for an increase in contribution?
I would have to defer to Nick or Craig. They may have that rough calculation available.
Yeah, I just need, ballpark here.
Is Nick or Craig on the line? I don't have that information in front of me. Trustee Harris, I can get back to you.
Yeah. All right.
Hi, Ted. So this is Craig at Milliman. So the 0.01% is of payroll of LACERA. And so the payroll, I believe currently is around $9 billion annually.
Okay.
So it would be 0.01% of the 9 billion, which, if my division off the top of my head is correct.
That's a do actuarial math here.
Right. So.
Yeah, it's less than $1 million.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's a big number, but it's not that big.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. Thank you.
A normal person would say that's a big number.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, right now, I believe a motion.
I have
would
my
be
hands up.
Oh, yeah. Well, now you do. All right, go ahead.
Yes, I just have both a comment and a question. So comment is that the only reason to do an ad hoc approval would be if we thought that inflation was going to dip back down. So other than that, we should look at doing permanent. We also got to think about how that impacts retirees when we tell them, okay, well, we're going to reconsider this every year versus a permanent increase where they can calculate that into their budget. So I definitely wouldn't be in support of an ad hoc unless it needed to be something where we're looking at inflation, backing down in the future. That being said, my question is, it seems like procedurally, the only thing we have to do is say, bring this back to the board, correct? We don't have to decide on the ad hoc versus permanency today.
That is correct, Trustee Kehoe. If you direct staff to bring it back to the board at the next meeting, the board would decide whether it's whether there's an award and whether the award is ad hoc or permanent at the next October meeting.
Got it. So I'll go to make the motion to bring it back to the board next month.
And I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for this to be tabled to next month. Tabling makes it an automatic entry into next month's agenda.
I have a question, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Sure.
So what's the purpose of delaying it? I mean, I'm prepared to vote today to make this permanent, but I just tried to figure out the rationale for delaying it. So I will appreciate if perhaps Mr. Kehoe or somebody else can explain to me what's the rationale for delaying it.
Trustee Santos, I have the short answer. Of course, Steve would have the long answer, but the short answer is the Star COLA is an ad hoc benefit. And so it requires 2 readings at the board. It requires the board to understand, the actuary to calculate, and the board to understand the cost of the benefit. And then at the second meeting for the board to decide whether to award the benefit. This compares to the COLA, the statutory COLA, the April 1st COLA. That COLA is really part of the benefit package in the CERL. So that's sort of an automatic, one-time approval by the board. But because the STAR COLA is ad hoc, it requires 2 readings at the board.
Got it. Thank you very much. I'm in support of the motion.
We have a motion.
And,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just wanted to clarify procedurally, Chair Pryor, if I might,
Yes.
that it's not simply a matter of, we're going to have a motion action, and the motion should be, and I think was, staff's recommendation, because under the statutory process, the board needs to publish the information and then direct that the issue be brought back.
Okay, understood, and that is the motion. Does that require the board to hear it at the next meeting, or could that go for another month?
I think it could go for, I'd have to actually, I should check on that. I think it probably can go another month if there's a reason to, but I would want to check on that, and we can nail that down during the agenda setting process if there's any desire to postpone the issue past October.
Okay, I don't want to. I'm sure we'll be ready for it by next meeting, but my understanding was when we had those consecutive meetings to read it and then vote on it, I thought that it had to be 1 month and the next month, but very well.
That's the recommendation.
Very well could be wrong.
That's the recommendation.
That's the recommendation. Got it. Okay, I do not see any questions in chat. I don't see any hands raised. Let's go ahead with the vote.
Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Santos,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you. That brings us to item B in the non-consent items. This is also a presentation. I'd appreciate if we could hold motions and Q&A till after the presentation. This is a recommendation by Ms. Delino, who is our Chief Information Technology Officer, and Celso Templo, that the board authorize staff to engage in a contract with Cobblestone Corporation for software licensing and consulting.
Good morning, Chair
Templo, or, okay. Oh, there's Kathy. Hi.
Hi, I'm going to introduce the item. Good morning, Chair Pryor and Board of Retirement Trustees. Earlier this year in March, the Operations Oversight Committee authorized the release of an RFP to select an enterprise contract lifecycle management software solution, which is also known as an ECLM. We're at the end of the RFP process, and we're bringing a vendor to the Board of Retirement as a recommendation for your consideration. So I'd like to introduce Celso Templo. He is an IT manager in our division, and he's in charge of the project management office. He's going to present our recommendation. I'll turn it over to you, Celso.
Very well. Thank you, Kathy. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chairman Pryor and trustees for having us. With me today is Michael Dozier, project manager of the ECLM. I shall go over the presentation demonstrating the processes and justification of how the enterprise contract lifecycle management project team arrived at today's Board of Retirement vendor recommendation. The ECLM project team recommends authorizing staff to collaborate and contract with Cobblestone Corporation for consulting services to procure, configure, and implement enterprise contract lifecycle management with an implementation cost of $92,300 plus an annual licensing fee of $167,577. We came to the recommendation based on the following factors. First, Cobblestone satisfies all the requirements per RFP. It has the highest evaluation scoring during the RFP process. Cobblestone has the capability to integrate with LACERA's enterprise solutions such as Microsoft Dynamics Great Plains. Lastly, it's hosted in the cloud and contains other features such as optical character recognition, which is essential in contract assessment and validation. Background. LACERA has been seeking an enterprise contract lifecycle management to replace the manual processing of our contract operations and also an on-premise contract repository. The benefits of an enterprise solutions are as follows: real-time collaboration among the contract teams, internal and external stakeholders, as well as the senior leadership. Also, there's automated workflow and notification, increased visibility across participating divisions, and real-time status updates of the contract lifecycle. Also, there's robust business intelligence and reporting capabilities. Also, integration with other enterprise systems. Lastly, there's an introduction of artificial intelligence and smart technology features. Hence, on March 4th of this year, the Operation Oversight Committee authorized LACERA staff to issue a request for a proposal to search for a vendor that would provide an enterprise contract lifecycle management solution. As you can see in this slide, the following are contract process requirements necessary for an enterprise contract lifecycle management. LACERA needs them for, and they are an RFP development and management, contract negotiation and authoring, the ability for contract approval and execution, and also a contract repository. In addition, LACERA needs a contract, some functional requirements necessary for an enterprise contract lifecycle management. And they are as follows: automated workflow, meaning it automatically removes the contract from the different contract stages; artificial intelligence, the ability to programmatically perform some critical decisions based on developed and defined business rules, and use these trends to execute or process decisions without manual intervention. Also, the introduction of smart technology, which is the ability to design and develop smart technology features such as auto completion of a form based on user profile and business rules. There's also the dashboarding to promote status reporting and key performance indicators. We're also looking for an audit trailing to provide detailed transactional history and accountability for each business division. There's also the BI reporting for process improvement features, key performance indicators, and forecastings for future capacity planning and resource allocation. There's auto notification, wherein an email will be sent out automatically as soon as some significant due dates are fast approaching. The ability of having a document management capability, repository that contains all the essential documents that a contract needs, as well as the version capabilities. It also has to be integratable to our LACERA legacy and future application. That means the application has the ability to connect with existing and future LACERA applications to share essential data from and different systems. In addition, there's also contract management features that LACERA believed necessary for a robust contract lifecycle management. And they are as follows: a contract clause library. These are repositories filled with standardized template clauses that have been pre-constructed and pre-approved. This will be great tools for our legal team during the contract legal review stage. Also, there's the keyword searchability and index capabilities. Again, robust dashboards wherein we can provide high-level visibility for everyone to view the latest status of a contract. There's also the centralized contract and document library containing relevant documents that the contract requires, and vendor-related documents such as W-9, insurance, and SOC 2 compliance certifications. Audit logs and detailed record analytics is critical for gathering stats indicating key performance indicators and quality assurance. Also, there's a vendor portal. It is a platform that allows vendors to connect and collaborate with our LACERA staff by exchanging important information such as RFP-related documents, uploading specific questions, posting questions related to the project, as opposed to sending emails with attachments. Also, it's important to have customizable alerts and reminders in terms of targeting specific groups and sending relevant and vital notifications to the contract management team. It has to be compliant with our LACERA RFP requirements. Also, it has to be a software as a service hosted or self-hosted on-prem solution to allow flexibility in hosting the typical application. Lastly, it has to have an open application programming interface to ensure that it'll be integratable with our LACERA automated payments and our Great Plains integration. This slide shows our ECLM RFP process flow. As you can see, it demonstrates several critical processes. First, there's a project kickoff, The project kickoff is essential because it defines expectations, identifies who are the stakeholders, subject matter experts, and sponsors, kind of lock down the specification and as well as the scope, and then identifies the milestones and tasks needed to complete the project. Then there's also the RFP completion and posting of LACERA the RFP to LACERA.com. This was done on March 4 after obtaining the OOC approval. And thank you, OOC board. Next was the Q&A with the prospective vendors, in which some provided the proposals, which the team evaluated and selected for the presentations. The vendors presented their proof of concept or prototypes, including the 4 contract process requirements that I mentioned on the earlier slide. The SMEs rated and narrowed down the prospective vendor pool from 9 prospective candidates to 5 potential finalists. Then a deep dive due diligence was conducted by subject matter experts from the participating business division. They asked questions, ensured that finalists adhere to the best practices in technology and security matters. Finally, the 5 finalists presented their proof of capabilities, targeting specific functionalities that the participating SMEs had provided. Also, the project management office reached out to the finalists, referenced, and verified their accomplishment. Lastly, the ECLM project team tallied the rating results and the SME findings, narrowing down the 5 finalists to 2. And these 2 finalists, we presented them to the executive management, including the recommended winning bid. As you can see, the last process there is, as today, the final process, which is the BOR vendor recommendations presentation. This next slide shows the business process, rather the business division that participated in evaluating the vendor candidates. These business divisions and SMEs were part of the information security, investment, financial, accounting services, system, admin services, and legal office divisions. They all played an essential role in evaluating the vendor per RFP requirements, verify their references, ensure that the vendor adheres to technology and security best practices, champion every processes, and provide supports from the executive point of view. This next slide shows the different subject matter experts from the different business division. As you can see, admin services had 2 evaluator. Admin services will be the leading contract management operation of the ECLM system. This next slide itemizes the following weighted criteria used by the SMEs evaluators that I mentioned in the previous slide in rating the potential vendor candidates that participate in the RFP submission. Also, there's the vendor scoring. This slide shows the aggregated and average results of the evaluation criteria that the 6 participating SMEs had completed. As you can see, the last 2 rows showed the average and ranking. Cobblestone and Icertis came out to be 1 and 2. This slide kind of demonstrates how the process worked as far as the vendor evaluation recommendation. As I mentioned earlier, we started with 9 potential candidates, vendor candidates rather. After that, our stakeholders provided their vendor ratings and interviews, and we narrowed it down to 5, namely Icertis, Cobblestone, Agiloft, DocSign, and Pantheon. Then we applied a deep dive due diligence, wherein our business division SMEs, system technical SMEs, as well as PMO, and InfoSec interviewed each of the 5 potential candidates, and then we ended up to the 2 candidates, which is Icertis and Cobblestone. Hence, in this slide, it has the breakdown of the 2 highest rated vendor candidates resulting from the deep dive due diligence. As shown in the tabulated results, the ratings were somewhat close, having Cobblestone narrowly edging out Icertis. But as far as the implementation cost is concerned, Cobblestone is much cheaper. And from that, the ECLM project team selected Cobblestone for the vendor recommendation to the executive management and board of retirement. So why Cobblestone? Cobblestone successfully presented the requirements, and it's on par as far as the RFP requirements were concerned. It attained the highest scoring from the evaluation committee. It had artificial intelligence module and smart technology. It also has an RFP module for internal standardization. It contains a vendor onboarding portal where LACERA and the vendor can exchange ideas. It also has a vendor scoring and risk assessment. Also, as far as the SMEs are concerned, they rated Cobblestone as the highest user interface, which means that is the user experience was excellent. Cobblestone has been part of heavy deployments with the different public and municipal sectors, and also it practices government services associated discount, meaning to say the LACERA, which is a public organization, we will be afforded discount on licensing and professional service. Cobblestone has been founded in 1995. It has more than 800 client partners comprised of small, medium, and large organization. Clients are from the US, Canada, and the UK, having industries from the public sector, healthcare, and banking. It also has a proven track record of successful implementation in the past 12 months. Their ECM solutions includes AI implementation and online vendor registration. As you can see, this slide demonstrates solutions involving contract processes, features, and supporting modules that Cobblestone Enterprise Contract Lifecycle Management offers. This slide discusses some of the benefits and features to the stakeholders that Cobblestone offers. And they are reduced contract renewal fees, paper chasing time, and reporting time afforded by the Cobblestone automated and paperless features. Simplicity and easiness of use. As I mentioned, user experience was rated high by the SMEs. Consolidation of numerous enterprises, different management solutions that can be integrated with Cobblestone, elimination of manual tracking and data redundancy. There's also a reduction of duplication of work. Cobblestone has a dashboard containing status where team members can view and monitor the life cycle stage of a specific contract. It also has a centralized data management. It increased the governance over contracts. It also is a platform agnostic and browser agnostic. Hence, Cobblestone can be rendered into your tablet or in your cell phone. It simplifies negotiations and signatures, and it also tracks contract compliance. This slide shows how Cobblestone possesses wisdom. It's touted artificial intelligence and smart technology that provides the following: machine learning, natural language processing, data extraction and automated data review, optical character recognition, data identification, capture, and clause comparison, which is important in the contract clause library, risk assessment, mapping, and statistical data analysis, linear regression, logistic regression, supervised learning, and charting. All this mathematical analysis will be important as far as forecasting for future capacity planning, process improvement, and also resource allocation. Cobblestone has an open API integration feature that will allow other enterprise applications to connect and exchange information from Cobblestone's ESLM back and forth. As you can see, it has an API that uses a secure socket layer to authenticate and send receive data from different consumers. Cobblestone security compliance, as you can see, Cobblestone is a software as a service hosted in the cloud. It is managed within Google Cloud data centers. It is compliant, having a SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, and all of the ISO related certifications. This slide shows different implementation partners that Cobblestone has completed. Among them are Riverside County, Marin County, County of San Diego, and also County of Placer. This slide shows us Cobblestone integrated partners, and they are among them are SAP, Oracle, Salesforce, Microsoft, and Google. And Cobblestones have also won and been recognized by the award determining board. So finally, with that, we are recommending for the board of retirement to authorize our LACERA staff to engage and contract with Cobblestone Corporation for consulting services to procure, configure, customize, and implement an enterprise contract lifecycle management solution totaling to about $260,000 for a year one cost. And that completes our presentation. So again, thank you, Chairman Pryor and trustees, for allowing us to present our ECLM vendor recommendation. We'll gladly entertain any questions from the board.
Thank you, Mr. Templo. I do have a question for Mr. Kehoe.
Thank you. Two questions. First question, I think we're at the end of the road for this, but I'm interested to know the thought process on why we are contracting out for this rather than attempting to build this in-house. And then number two, what are the terms of this contract? I've seen nothing about how long this contract is good for. It's $167,000 the first year. Is this going to be a 5-year contract, 8-year contract? What kind of protections do we have on increasing prices over the terms of this? Because once we go all in on this, they pretty much own us, right? So it would be tough to switch over to a different vending service at this point. So we're making a long-term commitment in this. So I want to make sure that we're also protected in the long term. So if you can address both those questions, please.
Sure. Trustee Kehoe, I'll answer those questions for you. So first I'll address the custom off-the-shelf solution versus build your own. We currently have a homegrown solution for contract management, and it hasn't really kept up with the industry. It's a repository, but many of our processes are still manual surrounding it. There are many off-the-shelf solutions that address our requirements with no code, just configuration. Also, the change in licensing models with software companies has made this an easier decision for us. We don't have to buy a server. We don't have to hire a system administrator to maintain it in-house. It's a subscription service. It's hosted. It can be hosted either in our public cloud or in Cobblestones. And so it definitely gives us a lower barrier to entry for this type of solution. I think in the past, before these models were available, it might have been a better solution to develop it in-house. But many products, if you look at the details on all of the different RFPs we entertained and read, there were a lot of solutions available, and Cobblestone was clearly the leader in terms of meeting our requirements. And then the second question, once we get approval from the board, we'll enter negotiations with Cobblestone. And we really appreciate your question, because that is a very valid concern. Cobblestone is intended to be a long-term strategy for us. And so we will, with that in mind, we will negotiate a long-term contract for us, probably 3 to 5 years. And they will, as you mentioned, they will have our data. And so we will make sure in the contract that we're able to, if anything should go, if our strategy should change, we would be able to export our data and use it elsewhere.
So shouldn't the financial elements and the terms length of the contract have been developed before it was brought to the board? I understand that some of the highly technical aspects, such as data security and retention, et cetera, like that, is elements of an RFP that's going to be finalized. But shouldn't we shouldn't be in this position as a board making a decision on this without knowing how long this contract's going to be and the long-term financial impact of the overall RFP. Seems backwards to do it otherwise. Maybe this one for Santos or Lewis to address.
Well, I'll just give you a short answer, and maybe they can give you a longer answer. So it is a subscription service. So the $157,000 is an annual fee. So when we negotiate with Cobblestone, depending on the length of the contract, we may have some discounts for a longer contract, but it is an annual fee for as long as we have the product.
So the price is not going to increase. As long as we have the product, it's 157,000.
That is correct.
Mr. Lugo.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair Pryor, and thank you for the question, Trustee Kehoe. And to Ms. Delano's point, it is an annual subscription, which allows us to reassess. But you know, some of our contracting standards, it's usually 3 years and an extension of 2 or 3 to 5 years. So we don't see that extending, but we certainly see your point in terms of highlighting that within our presentation. But I think for our purposes, it's allows us to assess this annually. And then to Kathy's point, if we do look at a more longer term relationship, we may realize some discounts. So we will take that into consideration with you know, future presentations, ensuring that the board understands kind of our full commitment to a particular vendor.
Perfect. If I could just add that 2 things that the board, you know, I personally look at as a trustee is, 1, is the solution a good solution? And then 2, what's the financial implications of it? So I understand it's a good solution. I get that very well presentation. The question that I had is on the financial side. So that helps out a lot. If we're in a locked in costing, and that costing is locked in for the terms of the contract, which would be amazing. I'm surprised to hear that 167 is locked and it will be the same every year with no increases in prices. If that's in fact the case, then that's a good deal, which makes my decision easy. But yeah, for future presentations, we should definitely have financial impact for the terms, etc.
Mr. Moore, do you still have a question?
Yes, I wanted to know if Cobblestone's data collection includes profile information on the proposers. So when we send something out and get 10 proposals, do we keep some information on the profile of the company, you know, the size, diversity and inclusion, any other attributes of the company that we wanted to keep, so that going forward, we can look at who the companies are that we're contracting with, whether we're meeting these other goals for contracting, like sole proprietorships, limited partnerships, large companies, small companies, women-owned, minority-owned, the profile of the companies.
Mhm. So there is a component of Cobblestone that addresses that. Celso or Michael, do either of you want to take that question?
I'll take that. I'll take that, Mike. Thank you, Trustee Moore. We have the vendor portal and vendor customer registration, where we kind of like add the different vendors and then rate them based on previous interaction. We have the ability to kind of like provide them, you know, they have properties when we enter them, and then put them there, and then kind of like figure them out as far as like previous interaction with them. And also it has ratings of what kind of vendors they are. So that's one of the reasons why we went with Cobblestone, because they have that feature. And as a matter of fact, I mentioned in my presentation, it has the vendor scoring and risk assessment, which is critical, because with that risk assessment, it will inform us, okay, if this vendor is great or good to go as far as like, you know, interacting and collaborating with them.
I don't know if I got my answer, but
Go ahead, Mike. Mike, you want to go ahead, Mike?
yeah, are we going to be able to collect information like this is a women-owned enterprise of under 20 employees, so that we can go back and look at who's successful in getting contracts and maybe why some companies are not successful?
Yes. So within one of the AI operation modules extracts information from the company under the risk assessment analysis. With that, it does a poll with Dun Bradstreet and gives a breakdown of the entire company. If it's owned by
why is it risk assessment instead of just profile?
Well, so risk assessment would doctor things such as credit rating, past performance of the company and other businesses, ratios of success to failure. But with that, it gives an entire breakdown of the company demographic. So, I mean, who owns it? How long it's been owned? Is it minority owned? Is it, owned in China? Is it, I mean, is it local? So it trust-based and / risk analysis. And then of course, there are options in there to select to kind of target a smaller audience, right? You can say, look, we're looking for companies, 5,000 employees plus, so we can help sustain, certain service level agreements, or we're looking to partner with smaller companies that can give us more attention. So there are settings within there, but then that data can also be, saved into a profile of, your favorite as well, moving forward as a entrusted vendor, if you will.
Okay, so after you've implemented the system and gone through about a year or so of RFPs, then you can go and look back and see who's been bidding on work for our company and what the profile of those companies that are seeking to work for us look like.
That is correct. And there's a very comprehensive dashboard where you can align those top vendors that that have been bidding, and you can actually watch this in real time as well.
And to add to that, Chairman, Trustee Moore, as I mentioned, he has a process improvement wherein typical vendor management, we have the capability to rate the vendor and make sure that we kind of like put a grading for how we kind of like interacted with them, and also kind of like make sure that they can also reach out and then provide their information. So the beauty of this application is it's open to our vendor to make sure that they can include some pertinent information. It's also open to us to provide information that would contribute to grading of each of the vendor, how we kind of like interacted with them and collaborated with them, if something that we can go with them. And they're big into process improvement. That's why I mentioned they have that statistical analysis, those business intelligence, and as Mike mentioned, we have the dashboarding capabilities that we can use to rate our specific vendor.
Mr. Lugo.
Thank you, Chair Pryor, and Trustee Moore, thank you for your question. And more broadly, I do want to make sure the trustees are aware that we are working on a more DEI overarching strategy around how we collect and solicit through our RFP process and also our contracting and professional services. So we have a short-term and a long-term. It's short-term now, and this is a continuation from our conversation with the audit committee a couple of weeks ago, but we are incorporating specified language within our RFPs as of right now, as it relates to collecting some of that information and ensuring that companies, whether small or big, are providing information in terms of their DEI efforts. And then we're looking at that as part of our analysis in terms of an organizational structure, similar to what the investment division has implemented through their TIDE initiative. And then more of a long-term approach in conjunction with our strategic planning, we'll have policy related around DEI and how it interacts through our various activities. So that is going to be a component that we'll have, for all our contracting and professional services.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Cray, you're muted, I think.
Thank you.
There you go.
Mr. Lugo, your answer sort of satisfies me, and I think I'm going along with what Mr. Moore is saying. Do we have a policy that includes DEI requirements in terms of not only their statistics, but what are they doing and how are they going to do that? It should be part of their process. And do we have that policy now? And in terms of electing Cobblestone, did we utilize that policy? And are they in the understanding that DEI is important in terms of how they contract with vendors?
Trustee Gray, as of right now, we do not have a specified policy. We do have some policies around, conduct and just general, discrimination, but we don't have a specified policy around DEI and then as it relates to our contracting or professional services. We are incorporating within our RFPs prospectively language around ensuring that organizations that submit a solicitation provide specified information as is done similar with kind of the investment side of the house. And then, so we're doing that in the short term, but in the long term, you're right. That's what we're working on right now. We have a team that's going to be crafting a overall policy around DEI and how does that interact with some of the other policies we have, whether it's our purchasing policy, our procurement policy, and so forth.
I'm a little disappointed in that you now have a team that is working on something that has been an issue for a few years now. And our investment team actually incorporated in their investment policy has the tide. Why would the team recreate the wheel instead of adopting that and just adjusting it to fulfill what we do on the administrative side? It just doesn't make sense. And it also is disappointing to know that we are kind of behind. And we are a very diverse organization.
Well, let's start with Mr. Lugo and then I'll go to Mr. Kryman.
Yep. So Trustee Gray, we are adopting, and you're right. It should have been adopted when initially with TIDE in terms of we are adopting from a short-term perspective some of the processes that investment has in terms of our contracting and professional services. There are some broader policy things that we have to look at on the administrative side that doesn't quite fit into some of the focused efforts around TIDE. So in terms of just our overall DEI policy, so that's something that we're working on more broadly, but we are using the processes related to the RFP language, as well as some of the assessment and reviews and the data capturing that investment uses today when they're looking at their vendors.
Mr. Kryman.
Yes. Thank you for your question, Trustee Gray and Trustee Moore. DEI is definitely an emphasis for us. We should have moved quicker in terms of adopting a lot of the really good policies surrounding DEI that the investment division are doing a wonderful job of reporting out and identifying the process. It is going to be part of the process, the evaluation process. I don't want you to think that it's kind of an end product where we're going to, because we have Prop 209 issues that we still have to deal with. And those are the complications that we have to address in terms of developing an overall strategy and policy. But in the short term, we are adopting the questions and the data collection requirements that our investment division requires. We have had discussions with John and his staff in terms of how we can modify their particular process to fit the administrative process that we're going to adopt. But in the long term, I'd like to have a specific policy that addresses that is incorporated into our procurement policy. The procurement policy, I think, was due to be reviewed. I believe this year is the third year that policy will be evaluating, and that'll be an additional component as part of the RFP process. It's a little difficult on the administration side because we have commodities that we purchase, but in terms of the RFP and the consultant services, that's where we really need to focus in on making sure that the DEI component is robust and is part of the evaluation of all of the vendors. In answer to your question, Mr. Trustee Moore, we will be tracking the information that you are discussing, the profiling information, making sure that the vendors that we select are meeting their commitment to the DEI that we're going to be looking for as part of the RFP process. And so with that, hopefully that answers your questions. I do apologize for the delay in implementing DEI component, but it was something that we did have discussions as part of our audit committee meetings, and they made it very clear that they also wanted this component in our RFP process. The other thing that I do need to mention is that the way we were handling contracts was dispersed amongst all of the divisions. And so we didn't have a real central repository for this type of information. And so that's the purpose of this particular system that we're asking for, so that we can better manage and look at the DEI information as well as the performance information, and making sure that from a contract management perspective, we're doing and checking all the boxes that we need to make sure that we're getting the most bang for our buck, quite frankly. So with that, I turn it back to you, Chair Pryor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Santos?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Number one, Mr. Lugo, thank you very much for listening to us in the audit committee, and specifically with this particular issue. Quite frankly, I was surprised that the Tide initiative has not been implemented in the Board of Retirement. Perhaps it's my own fault as a trustee, because I should have raised that issue earlier. But one suggestion I may have, Mr. Kryman, is that every time one of the boards enacts a policy, the staff or somebody should be reviewing the policy to determine whether or not that policy should be organization-wide. This is a perfect example where we can adopt similar policy in the Board of Retirement, but I'm happy to hear that the staff is moving aggressively on that. So thank you, and looking forward to see the information that we get from this RFP or this engagement.
Thank you. Ms. Delino?
Oh, thank you, Chair Pryor. So the only thing I wanted to add is just to assure the board that DEI is something that we're talking with the executive office on right now, and we will be implementing any policies that they come up with. I wanted to point out that this RFP was approved by the OOC in March, and so it was actually written in January. So it's, you know, it's been some time, but DEI is something that we're actively working on. And so RFPs from this point on, you should expect to see language in there on DEI, whether it's requirements or evaluation criteria. So if you looked at the evaluation criteria that we had for this particular solution, there was no reference to DEI because, you know, it was started back in January. But going forward, expect to see a difference.
I see no further questions, and this non-consent item B does require a motion and a second. Do I have a motion and a second?
This is Keith.
Mr. Knox makes the motion.
And I will second that.
And Mr. Santos is the second.
Great. Mr. Knox?
Aye.
Mrs. Gray? Aye. Mr. Santos?
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Kehoe?
Aye.
Mr. Robbins?
I'm a no.
Mr. Bernstein?
Aye.
The motion passes with 8 yeses and 1 no.
Thank you, Bonnie. This brings us to item C of the non-consent items. And this is submitted by Mr. Beasley, and that we purchase fiduciary insurance and cyber liability insurance, $408,000, $622,000 respectively. And 3, that we delegate authority to the chief executive officer or designee to approve all insurance renewals moving forward due to timeliness of insurance bid and the close deadlines for renewals. Who am I taking this to? Mr. Kryman, you want to take a swipe at this?
This is, excuse me, Chair Pryor, this is going to be Mr. Beasley.
Mr. Beasley will.
I don't see him in the, okay.
I'm here. I don't know.
Oh, you are? Oh,
Yeah.
there you are. Gotcha. I'm sorry. I got a really
Turned
a
on.
lot of people on my screen. There you are. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Beasley.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chair and trustees. I'm James Beasley with Administrative Services Division. And before we begin, I would like to introduce LACERA's insurance brokers from Alliant Insurance Services. Today, we have Robert Shimke and Barbara O'Hara, who are here with us to answer any insurance-related questions that you may have. I am here today to request that the board retirement approve the purchase of fiduciary insurance not to exceed $408,890 and to purchase cyber liability insurance in an amount not to exceed $622,774. Additionally, we request that the board delegate authority to the chief executive officer or their appointed staff to approve all insurance renewals moving forward because of the timeliness of obtaining insurance bids and the close deadlines required for renewals.
Hey,
For the policy for purchasing goods and services, also known as our procurement policy, we are requesting authorization to purchase fiduciary and cyber liability insurance since the premium amount for the coverage exceeds the CEO's signature authority of $150,000. During the renewal period, it was very challenging for the insurance brokers to obtain quotes from various insurance carriers for the fiduciary and cyber liability lines of coverage, as we are experiencing a hard insurance market as we were for the last couple of years. The underwriters from the insurance companies are not willing to provide a firm quote outside of a 30 days prior to expiration date. A hard market is an upswing in the market cycle when premium increase and capacity for most types of insurance decreases. This can be caused by several factors, including falling investments returns for insurers, increase in frequency or severity of losses, and regulatory interventions that are deemed to be against the interest of the insurers. As I said, the hard market has created challenge for our brokers. We have received firm quotes for the primary policies with the fiduciary and cyber liability coverages. However, due to the current state of the insurance market, the brokers are still working on gathering additional quotes for the extra layers of coverage to satisfy the full $20 million policy limits that are required. They are also negotiating for lower premiums with the carriers that have already provided quotes. For the primary policies, we will be renewing with the incumbent carriers as they are the mostly competitive price. As for the excess policies, we will finalize them before the expiration date of October 9th. The excess policies with the selected carriers will follow the same policy form as the primary insurance policy. Nothing major will change before the expiration, but we are anticipating reduced premium rates, which we are already seeing, and nearly $12,000 savings for the cyber liability coverage. Our brokers are working diligently on our behalf to ensure that we have a complete comprehensive insurance program. Again, we are requesting that your board approves the purchase of fiduciary liability coverage not to exceed $408,890 and cyber liability not to exceed $622,774. Additionally, we request approval of the recommendation for delegating authority to the CEO or his designee to approve all future insurance renewals. This will provide the necessary time for staff and the brokers to conduct the due diligence required to review the insurance carriers' policy forms and premium quotes, and negotiate the best price within the 30-day limitation that are set by the insurance carriers. More importantly, staff will provide the Board of Retirement with a summary report of the insurance renewal program, at the next regularly scheduled meeting after the insurance policies have been reviewed and bound by the insurance carriers. Finally, the insurance team is aligning the insurance program so that there will be one annual renewal period rather than two. For this renewal period, the insurance carriers are writing the policy terms to expire on June 30th, so that the insurance policy expires on the same date. In making this change, we will reduce the number of times each year the trustees and staff will need to review the proposed renewals, saving time and money. This concludes my presentation, and we will be more than happy to answer any questions. If there are no questions, I want to thank you, Mr. Chair and trustees, for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. I did want to point out I'm in favor of the motion and the expenditure and even the delegation, but I would kind of like some reassurances that if anything goes beyond the parameters of sort of, what's covered under the policy or the price, if it goes beyond what would be a normal increase in an insurance product, that the board is brought into the loop and that we're able to have the discussion whether we want to keep the insurance or change parts of the program, that kind of thing. So I'm gonna let Mr. Kryman address that and maybe alleviate some fears along the way about the part 3 of this motion.
Yeah, I believe the delegated authority is really a timing issue in terms of us negotiating. So I will give you the assurance that if things, in my opinion, are going sideways, so to speak, or there's a significant change, so I will be reporting back to the board and requesting you to evaluate and have a discussion about it. I think that whatever parameters you've set, those will be the parameters that I will operate under, and make sure that I report out any information that is important for you all to know once I execute an agreement, or if we need to go back to the board for further discussion.
And I'd like to also point out that sometimes with situations such as these, you may have, I would definitely keep the board chair in the loop as far as the negotiations go. You may even have a chair that wants to appoint an ad hoc committee that's more flexible than the board meeting. And an ad hoc committee, you can get together within a couple hours notice and at least get the flavor of the board and advise the board about what changes to the policy or what price changes might be coming. I think that would be up to a future chair if that was necessary.
That's a good suggestion. We'll incorporate that in our process.
Thank you. Seeing no other further questions, do we have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Moore, second by Mr. Knox.
Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Santos,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you, Bonnie. That brings us to reports. None of the reports that have been posted have a note saying that they are going to be presented. Is that correct, Bonnie?
That is correct.
And I've had no request to pull those items or that they be presented. If anybody has a question on any of those, feel free. Items for staff review and items for future agendas are on the table. If we have any curriculum development, agenda development, or items for staff review, please let me know.
Yes, I just noted one suggestion by Trustee Santos, which was that policies implemented should be reviewed and considered if it's impacted the organization.
Thank you. And that brings us to good of the order.
Great, so I will go ahead and start with Mr. Knox.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I was just going to mention that last week, my executive secretary, who had 44 years with the county, retired. And I was remarking at her little celebration how, she oftentimes served as the face of our department and engaged the taxpayers in a friendly way. So I was actually happy to see a couple of secretaries amongst the all-stars that JJ mentioned earlier, Mr. Popovich. Just because I think there's a tendency to focus on the frontline staff at LACERA and me at my department with the people that work the counter. And sometimes it's easy to overlook the secretarial staff and the support staff behind the scenes. So kudos to them. And that was it. Have a great day, everybody.
Much agreed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Gray.
My comments evolve around a thank you. I'd like to thank Ms. Delino and Systems, Mr. Celso. That was a very good report. I know we had a lot of questions regarding contractor policy, but all in all, your report was very well done, very well prepared, and enabled us to make a decision today. The other thank you goes to benefits. I reached out to Alan Cochran and his staff, and they were very, very helpful in answering questions that I had about benefits, and they're probably questions that many of our members have. So I'd like to thank Mr. Cochran and his staff for answering those questions for me. And that's all. I think everyone did a great job today, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Santos.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a similar thank you, and I guess compliment as Vivian, specifically with regards to the benefit staff. I met with this young lady a couple of weeks ago, and I was just so impressed with her knowledge, not only of the pension benefits, but also the retiree healthcare. My wife has some questions with regards to retiree healthcare that we need to take into consideration when we evaluate retirement. And I was just so impressed with this young lady, and then she just had a lot of patience, which is, I think, is critical, because I'm sure they probably think, oh, that's a stupid question, right? But most questions are stupid, especially when it comes to the members. So it was just really admirable to see the level of patience, the knowledge she had, and then she followed up with an email providing me some of the information that we had discussed. I don't believe that she knew at the time that she met with me that I sit on both boards. It never came up during that discussion. I think she learned my position in LACERA when I wrote a very nice letter to the CEO on some of the upper management regarding her abilities. And if that's a reflection of the staff that we have talking to our members, we have tremendous staff. So I really want to emphasize that is huge, for getting the right information as we evaluate a future retirement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Santos. Mr. Sanchez?
Thank you. I just want to quickly, briefly thank staff as always and wish everybody. My daughter started school 2 weeks ago. It's been nice and hot, so I hope all the students and parents are enjoying the new school year. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moore?
Okay, I don't know if it was just that I was paying attention, but both of the presentations we heard this morning were very informative for me. And I was especially kind of excited about the contract monitoring and management system, the tracking of all of the steps in the procurement process, because I have some experience in that area. And that was always an issue that needed to be overcome, was collecting all this information on who was bidding on your contracts and how you could do a better job of outreach and determining characteristics of firms that will be successful in your environment. And I think gathering up all this information and using all the, intelligence is going to be very productive in helping us select good candidates for contracting. So kudos to the staff.
Thank you, Mr. Keogh.
I have nothing.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins.
I got my high dose flu vaccine last night, and I eagerly await the October release of booster number 3 for COVID.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
No, nothing from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bernstein.
Good morning, everyone. Good meeting. I didn't pull the emergency item, but I just want to express my kids are back in school and they're not masked here in LA. We're mostly traveling. Our workers are back at LACERA, at least part-time, and we're having an offsite for the Board of Investments in the next week or two. And I'm just not clear at this point when we make a determination that we don't have a medical emergency. I love the convenience of this, but I did call our CEO yesterday to get an update, and I did not get a call back. And I'm just a little bit confused about at what point we would move back towards normalcy. And I just wanted to express that concern.
Thank you, Mr. Bernstein. AEO Laura Guglielmo.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Thank you. JJ Popovich.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Louis Lugo.
No, just a thank you to trustees and appreciate your engagement and certainly your feedback as well. Very much appreciated.
Thank you. Chief Counsel Stephen Rice.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Thank you. CEO Santos Kryman.
Yes, just two items. First, just want to remind the trustees that the Board of Investment offsite begins Tuesday of next week. And so we look forward to seeing you all in Long Beach. The other item is that I wanted to let you know that our outreach staff will be attending on Monday of next week, the LACERA Foundation fundraiser. They'll have a booth there and providing information to our sheriff deputies that are members of LACERA, and so we're looking forward to being there and helping the deputies understand their benefits both on the healthcare side and on the pension side. I do plan on attending that particular fundraiser. I think it's time for me to meet some of our stakeholders. And ALES is definitely an important stakeholder as far as I'm concerned. And so I will be attending that particular fundraiser coming up on Monday. It's a very laudable mission that they have to assist fallen deputies and their families transition from tragic circumstances. And so just want to let you know that our outreach staff will be out there, and we're looking for other opportunities to be at and engage our members where they are. So with that, just want everyone to please stay cool and enjoy the indoors as opposed to the outdoors, quite frankly. So with that, give it back to you, Chair Pryor.
Thank you. And I think I'm up now, right, Bonnie?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Just a couple of things. First, on contracting, I'm sensing enough interest in the issue that I will not put it as a future agenda item motion or anything like that, but to our staff, Mr. Lugo and Mr. Kryman, I'm seeing enough interest that this is probably worthy of a informational item and possibly a presentation, and give us a little progress update about contracting and how we're changing the process and what components are going to be included. If that's okay.
Yeah, we were planning on making a presentation to the OOC, but if you'd like us to move it from the OOC to the Board of Retirement, we could certainly do that.
I think that would be appropriate.
Okay.
I think we have enough interest that it's probably a good item for information on the Board of Retirement.
Okay, we will make that adjustment.
And one interesting thing, our counterpart on the county side, which is the 457 401k investment committee, and I'm forgetting the formal name of the committee right now, and I was on it for like 5 years. It was the, help me out, Santos.
I think it's the PAC, right?
The PAC, yes, thank you. The Plan Administrative Committee.
Yeah.
One good policy they had was actually inviting their trustees to sit in on the on some of the bigger contract items for third-party administrators, or I think we had one for information systems. We had one, and those were it was a component of their contract that they did have to have one of the members of the evaluation committee actually be a trustee. And I thought that was really effective. And I think there was a good back and forth with staff about what the board wants. And I thought that was something maybe we should look at.
And we could certainly to look into it. I know that there's pros and cons for having that sort of arrangement, and so I've sat on both. They worked in specific areas and didn't do not so much in others, and so we can definitely have a conversation about that.
Sure, I could see that. Second thing I wanted to address was Alan's comment regarding getting back to non-online board meetings. I know we had a meeting last week regarding the issue. We are having a regular quarterly meeting regarding the issue. And I know it kind of seems boilerplate when we're putting out, in our consent items, sort of this AB 361 government code section. It almost seems like we're just going through the motions, but I want to assure everybody that we're not. We are meeting quarterly regarding the issue, and that is the board chairs and staff. And the last meeting we had last week centered around what is the appropriate time. We all really do want to return back to in-person meetings. I think everybody made that very clear. But we did feel that the governance of having the online meetings, we weren't really losing anything by having online meetings. There isn't any, as much as I would appreciate the personal contact and interaction, I don't think we're losing anything. I think we're having good discussions. I think the motions and everything is we've sort of got this giant screen worked out with all the hands and all this stuff. So it seems like it's working out okay. And the concern was around resurgence of new strains of the coronavirus. And I went through a really hard time just a month and a half ago regarding the Delta variant and staffing my personnel. I know Mr. Kryman did as well, and we had a really quick rash of people that were off with COVID. I believe, we even have a board member or two that are recovering from COVID right now. And I voiced that I really want to see those go away until we start meeting in person. And this is something that is not easy to, if we're meeting in person, it's labor to go back to meeting online or vice versa. It's just a big shift. It's not something I really want to see us have to do several times. I don't want to see us move back to in-person meetings. And we had a good discussion with staff about what it's going to take to have in-person meetings. We have to get the boardroom set up, and we're going to have to test through that and give it a dry run and all this good stuff. And we're going to have to get ready for it. And, let's be sure that we're going to be back for good when that happens, that the next strain isn't pretty much around the corner waiting to make in-person meetings like that a scary moment for people and a possible health concern. So while I think everybody in the room would like to return to in-person, and it was definitely discussed, we all felt that having that happen right now just wasn't good timing, and that we could wait another quarter and we'll reevaluate. And hopefully there have been no new variants pop up in the meantime that are going to make that in-person meeting hard to do. Anything to add, Mr. Kryman, to that?
Yes, I think it's important to point out that we are preparing the boardroom for for your return. And Bonnie and Linda and my staff are in the process of transitioning over from board map to a new platform that will require some training. And so I think that the combination of what you discussed and combination of the fact that we haven't trained the trustees in terms of what that new system is going to look like and how we're going to operate while we're in the boardroom, I do believe that that training needs to take place prior to our return. And so I know Bonnie, I believe, is scheduling individual meetings with you all to train you on the new system. We're still fine tuning it at this point in time, but we should be prepared within the next month or two, or in order for us to operate the new system. So it's going to be a learning curve. It's going to be different when we come back. And so we just want to make sure that we do a couple of dry runs. We did a few dry runs just with staff and made some adjustments. And with the new system, we're going to have to do additional dry runs, and the training is going to be important, quite frankly. So I just wanted to add that as well.
Thank you. And before I go to the comments, I just wanted to assure everybody that we're having those discussions, a good debate, and I think that I'm summarizing everybody's sort of thoughts on that call. And I think we had a pretty easy decision to make to be able to push it to next quarter. With that, I have Mr. Robbins first.
Just a brief comment about the boardroom. I don't know what's going on with the boardroom, but more than once I've been thinking over the course of the last 2 years, which is about how long since we've been in there, that if anything was going to be done to make the seating in there less crowded. I know when we have joint board meetings, there is literally elbow to elbow all the way around that table. It would have been nice if we'd been able to expand the board seating area. I know it would be at the expense of the number of people sitting out in the audience, but oh well. But I was hoping that something would be done there to make the seating arrangement in there a little less conducive to infecting the person sitting next to you. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. Mr. Bernstein.
Mr. Pryor, respectfully, I've been here since 2011 and I did not pull this item and nobody pulled this item. This is good of the order. It is an opportunity for me to give an opinion. It is not appropriate for you and Mr. Fryman to be rebutting my opinion. It's simply an opinion. And respectfully, I voted for this and I didn't pull it and anyone could have pulled it. We had a JOG C meeting last week where we could have discussed this as a body and it was chosen not to. There needs to be respect for minority opinions, and that's all that I was offering.
Well, I will offer up that I have never, no, this has been a topic of discussion on almost everybody on the board's mind. You sent me an email that had this specific question. Let's go ahead and move on. I'll seeing no more requests and we are done the good of the order. Let's go ahead and take a 15-minute break.